Deep breath in.
Well, you just made it so pretty. You've got the apples and the bananas.
Yeah, I wanted color.
Well, it's color and it looks healthy.
I know. Projecting a false impression.
It's better than it once was. They look good though. They're pretty.
Yeah, that was part of the point. And easy access and ever before us.
Awesome. Well, we are back in Tomball, Texas.
Thank you, Jesus.
Now, you say that like we haven't had fun.
Oh, we have had a lot of fun. It's been really great, but I'm not going to lie. I'm glad to be home.
I am too. It's, and I've made so many to everybody out there. I've made so many disparaging remarks about living in Houston.
I know.
And so I feel a little guilty that when I actually came home or when we got set up, I said, we've come home. And it felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
which surprised us.
It surprised us. I love living on the road. I love it.
Yep.
And but when we set up here, we're 4 miles from our youngest son and his family, where we're at our home church now for like 2 Sundays in a row for the first time this year.
They're in system shock.
And it has just been sweet.
It has. Let's tell everybody this whole thing about this concept of home that we discovered this year. That surprised us.
Yeah, and we may have mentioned this. I don't remember for sure, but we have, we've slept in our RV. So our RV has been with us. So we've had our home with us, and we've been in the proximity of people that are friends that we know and love and enjoy their company and enjoy being there. But we were surprised. Somewhere late summer, we'd probably been gone from here for at least 5 months or something. And Marie looked at me one day and just says, I feel very unsettled, untethered, I think is the word she used. And it was a surprise to us because we're in our home, and it really is our home. This is it. But it's more than just a thing.
A dwelling place.
It's more than the dwelling.
And what prompted all of that reality was people kept always asking us the same question, well, where's home? And we would look at each other and go, well, it's parked over in such and such location. That's where home is. That's where our home is. And after about 2 to 3 months of that, it kind of created in me this thing of, wait a minute. It's more than just having our quote unquote dwelling place with us all the time. There was a definite sense of loss of connection.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it had hit me a little bit too. So anyway, all that to say, it's something we learned about ourselves this year that has surprised us a little bit.
Because let's be honest, we've taken a little bit of pride in our identity as nomads.
Oh, I love this life. But I realized that having the home base means something. It's more than a parking place. It means something, and we loved our church. We loved being home at our church the last 2 or 3 weeks, and being with our grandkids and kids, and hanging out with friends, and it's just different. And we're very, very glad to be here. Right now, I think we're here for sure through the spring, and then we are, still uncertain, but we kind of expect to
March will start it up again.
March probably head back up toward Ohio, Michigan, somewhere, and base in that area for the summer again. But that's in the future. There's a lot to go on between now and then. I'm trying to remember last time we did a video. Last time we talked was early August. And it has been maybe the busiest season of our year has been since then. And so I'm just going to recount some of the things we've done in like the last 7 weeks. So this is not a long period of time. I think it's probably close to 9 weeks.
You're going to summarize, right?
I'm just going to summarize. We were at the Elgin Vineyard with Tom Severson and his team. Thrive Vineyard up in both of those are in the Chicago metro area. With Molly and Kevin Kiefer. We were at Gurney Vineyard with Daniel Mercado, which is a Spanish. It's a La Viña up in the Chicago area. We met with the Chicago area pastors gathering late August, and then the next day, put the math together on this. We were at the Indianapolis area pastors gathering. So in less than 12 hours, we went from the one up in the Chicago area to the Indianapolis area. We met and spent some time with our friends Roger and Gloria Cunningham, who were home in Indiana. In Bloomington, Illinois, Adam Waters and his team. Crystal Lake Vineyard up in the Chicago area, which was Tim and Amy Mingler, our friends there. And I know we've done some stuff online with them. Then we were back at the Elgin Holy Spirit Conference with Jordan Singh, South Suburban Vineyard. We were visiting. We just spent some time with the pastor there with Gina Olison. Then we spent a week on the road, traveled to Houston, stopped in, saw my parents in Hot Springs, and spent a couple of days. First time they'd got to see our rig. That was fun. Then we went on to Austin Vineyard with Ben Cook and Gulf Coast Regional in Cape Coral, Florida. We were supposed to be there for a week, and
a little thing called a hurricane.
A hurricane came through, and they canceled the conference like 2 days before, and so that was fun. Getting our travel stuff rearranged, because we had actually planned on going to Cape Coral and then flying from there to our next event in San Diego. So I'd already purchased tickets out of Cape Coral. Made a little bit of a mini mess that got squared up. But
you're such a good travel agent now after 3 years.
Yeah, anybody wants to volunteer to be our travel agent, I might be open to listening, because it feels like I've discovered things about ministry over the years. One, as a pastor, you don't realize that the number one talent you have to have, probably there's two major ones. Number one is the ability to do plumbing, because I don't know how many toilets I replaced as a pastor.
Your fair share.
My fair share. And then the other one is you need to have some kind of a degree or certificate in chair setup and alignment. Those two things are like the main things you do as a pastor. And I've discovered,
unless you have pews.
Yes, well, pews
or theater seating that's bolted to the floor.
Well, I've noticed these places that have them bolted to the floor, and I think, yep, there's some wisdom there. That was an OCD pastor who thought that ought to be that way. The other thing is, in this life, I've discovered that 75% of itinerant ministry is travel planning. So I spent so much time booking hotels, airplanes, rental cars,
travel planning, weather prediction, a whole bunch of details that you never thought of.
That's definitely the main gift I need. I don't know what that is on the Enneagram or whatever, but that's the person you've got to look for.
Anyway, back to the list.
Okay, so Austin Vineyard, Ben Cook, the Gulf Coast Regional got canceled. We flew from, we changed our plans, and then we wound up going to Oceanside on October 13th, and we spoke at the Grace Vineyard with Ron Ost, and we got to go up and see our kids. Up in, well, actually, we did the whole route.
We went from the coast to the desert and then back to...
It did. So we drove...
in a day.
We drove from San Diego to Laguna Niguel, stay with Mauricio there, and then we went from our kids spending with James and Courtney, went out to the desert that afternoon and spent it with Reed and Megan and the girls, and they just, that's another story, but they've added a new girl this week. So, our son Reed he gave us a new grandkid. I'm sure that was his priority, was making sure we had another one. But we've got a new granddaughter. Then we came back to El Centro, California, and had a missions leaders meeting, which was wild. That's worth its own discussion. And then we went over into Mexicali for the National Vineyard
Pastors Conference for Mexico.
I got that completely wrong. You got it. The Mexico National Conference
for the pastors.
And so we were there in Mexico for about 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Came back to San Diego, flew to Urbana, Illinois for the Midwest Central Pastors Conference. Mm-hmm. And then we went from there over to the DC area last week, right? Just a little bit over a week ago. And we were in we were in two churches. We were I can never say the name of it. Essentia Lavinia in Vienna, Virginia. We did a equipping workshop, prophetic workshop, all day Saturday thing. And then we were at the Well Vineyard in just outside of Annapolis,
in Maryland,
on the 27th of October. So I think I counted 19 things in 9 weeks. So that was kind of a dense piece of calendar.
Mm-hmm. And I've given you explicit instructions. What are they?
You don't want it to look like that again. I know that's what I picked up on that. Yeah, it was a little.
We enjoyed it. God did amazing things, and it's always still. It's just fun to realize we get to do this,
absolutely.
And I still get shocked. But that was an intense cycle right there.
There was a lot of moving, a lot of traveling. I mean, there was one period we did not come home to the RV for 24 or 5 days. Mm-hmm. Right. So there was a stretch there. There were actually 2 stretches that were more than 10 days. So that's a little bit more than normal, but it was also some of the most powerful stuff that we've had happen. Is some of the just relationally, it still comes down to the relationships as we spend time with some of these people. They've become friends. I mean, so many of these leaders and pastors in these churches, we form a really. I call them friends now, right? So we enjoy the time we get to spend with them. So very special.
What's is there a favorite story from this last stretch that you think would be really cool for everybody to hear?
I just kind of do a rapid think through. Each of those has their own story. There's at least a story with every one of those. But this last week at Essentia, we do this regularly, but I did a workshop during the prophetic and healing conference. But frankly, we ran out of time. We went so long with some of the prophetic stuff. It was a lot of fun,
and we were also going through translators.
I don't think I had calculated my timing well with the translation going on. So we're kind of finished and let's do some healing. We said we'd do a healing workshop. Let's do a 15 or 20-minute version of that, which we did. And what I did was have somebody who's got some issues they were asking for healing prayer to come up and then do a workshop with her. And so I'd walk through very intentionally talking out every step of what we were going to do for them to be able to see it, the instructions. And this young woman had an accident, had injured her foot badly. And she was, she had a great deal of pain and walking and hobbling. And she had told us that the doctors didn't know why it hadn't healed right, but that she's still having these problems. And, we just walked through the healing model with everybody watching and going through this process. And at the end, she's it doesn't hurt, right? She stands up and she's testing it, and she begins to weep. It was just, it was not just cool and powerful. It was super sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't hold it in. She began to, I'm almost crying just remembering it, but super sweet. And so I actually have a video that I just quickly had her share her side of that story, and probably a not more than a 2 or 3 minute video that I'll have attached probably in the newsletter or on our site if you'd like to see that.
Yeah,
but
that's worth watching.
Powerful, powerful time.
So my favorite story from the last few months is from a testimony from some pastoral couple we ministered to this past few months, that a very significant healing was involved with one of them. And then the second part of it was words of knowledge and encouragement and wisdom that we gave to them.
Yeah. They were pretty desperate.
They were pretty desperate. They were facing at a point of making some possibly significant changes,
right?
Ministry-wise, even they weren't sure what to do, and they were looking at some pretty serious decisions. Anyway, so we're on the road, and she calls us and says, "I got to tell you what God did." So in the course of this, one, she got a significant healing touch from the Lord. And two, because of the words that we gave her between the two of us, I guess to us seemed a little bit generic, but to her were very specific. That's always a thing too, that within the next week of us having been there, a couple weeks, paying attention to a couple of the words she'd been given that they'd received, and paying attention to some things that they recognized as, oh, this is God, and that God intervened in their situation in a way that was incredible,
so
mind blowing.
Right.
She was like, I just could not believe what happened. And so she tells us this, and we're not going to go into details because it's their story to tell, but totally changed the situation in a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And their decisions that they made, that they thought they were concerned that they were going to have to make, they didn't have to make. God totally turned 180 degrees on them so that they could continue on doing what they loved doing.
Yep.
We were just blown away in the car. Yeah. We're all crying.
It's one of those stories. I wish I could tell more detail, but don't think we can. But it was as dramatic as hopefully you can pick up. God took a pastor who was on the verge of deciding that might not be feasible to it just in a very short amount of time. It was 180 degrees, just completely changed the situation. So anyway, it's exciting when you get to be part of hearing that back end story, right? We don't always hear the back stories.
Oh, we're hearing more of them.
It is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Some of the other significant things, we went down to El Centro,
California.
In California. It's a border, border town with Mexicali. And we got to visit and listen to some of the migrant workers, some of the people in the community. Got to talk with, we actually got to spend a little time talking with a border patrol agent, and just kind of get his perspective, a Christian man, really a cool guy, to hear his perspective on some of the things that they are dealing with, and some of the how can we respond, how can we help, those kind of things. Was a very, very impactful couple of days,
and informative,
working in that
enlightening
group,
I think is a good word.
Doing ministry among some of the people there was just very impactful. One of the more significant things that we've done maybe in the last couple of years. So anyway, that's kind of some of the highlights. Anything else come to mind?
No.
DC was fun just because we had never actually spent any time there, and we wound up with a couple of days before the events that we were doing to just kind of just see the area.
Drive around, do a lot of free things, and to my pleasant surprise, to find out I could go to the Smithsonian for free.
Yeah,
that was fun.
It was fun. Smithsonian was a lot of fun. Although if you're going to do that,
you need a week.
Take walking shoes and give yourself time because it's just it's a lot there. So anyway,
upcoming next week.
Next week, Monday. I guess you drop me off
at one airport.
While you go to the other one.
And where are you headed?
I'm headed to Zimbabwe with Jim Taylor out of Brandon, Mississippi. I'll be meeting Jim in Atlanta and flying to Zimbabwe. And then we will be 10 days doing some of the work we've done before as I go out and do some tribal areas and do church planting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're...
Then on that same Monday, after I drop you off, I drive to another airport in the Houston area and head to Belize, where I'll be going with, we call them a exploratory trip for missions, a group that is trying to discern what God is leading them to. We're doing missions possibly in Belize as a group of churches, a partnership of churches here in the U.S. So I'm excited. I'll be there Monday through Friday. I'll be back on that following Friday evening, but I'm going down with that group and just to discern what it is God's saying and doing. So that'll be kind of a fun trip too. So we will definitely appreciate your prayers for safety and covering and however else God leads you to pray. And then after that, I think we're pretty much done.
Well, I just said yes to a Colombia trip, but that's like right at
Thanksgiving,
right before Thanksgiving. So
yeah.
But that's a quick 1-day trip. It doesn't count.
I think it counts. I think Colombia would say it counts. So that pretty much wrapped up this year after we do these 2 trips and your quick trip to Colombia. And then I think there's one other thing that God has kind of said, now it looks like the time that is about ready to happen, which you are so excited and thrilled about, you can barely contain yourself.
Most of you, if you are watching these, are well aware of some of my my knee problems. And I have said all year that, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything until maybe when I get back to Houston and we're settled down for the winter, I can go get it checked out. Well, I'm not kidding. The day we parked the RV, my knee went into the worst place it's ever been. Mm-hmm. I could not walk.
It was painful to watch.
It has been a whole nother level, which sort of just forced me to, do what I said I would do, which is go on in and start the process. And so I turned in the paperwork for knee replacement surgery. I've not got any kind of details on that, on when or how that's going to happen. I'm sure they'll schedule it somewhere out, and I'll have to work our schedule out around it. So just kind of up in the air. Y'all can be praying for us, for me through that, for her. Again, my whiny prayers about this. I'm not looking forward to it, but I've got to get it done. So anyway, that's on the horizon. I don't see it immediate, but we'll see.
Yeah, but it'll put you in a place again where you can be physically fit and ready to go for the next season.
Well, there's no doubt that the way things are, I cannot do everything that I see. And I'm hoping that I can get physically in a place where I can actually physically do the things that God's opening doors for. So,
and I am actually, particularly with the encouraging stories we get back from some of our pastors that we've been with, and in particular the one couple we mentioned about earlier, seeing how God's going to work this out, because I do think it is God saying now's the time.
Well, we thank you.
Yes.
We thank you for your love and your prayers and the support that you've given us. We're coming up on 3 years. I mean, it's I think October 21. I think was when our first event was. At the end of the year, we went into the RV and all that. So, but 3 years of doing this,
Coming up on it.
man,
Who'd have thought?
who would have thought?
God.
I was certain it wouldn't last till February. So,
oh, ye of great faith. No, seriously, thank you so much. We, for you have encouraged us in this whole time and of what God's called us into, and there has been several of you who have consistently communicated with us with, you need to know this, a timely word, timely encouragement, and the reminder of it'll be worth it. It's worth it. Just look at what God's doing. Remember to pay attention for yourselves, and always your care and concern for us personally, that we take care of ourselves in this whole life, as your love has been just such an incredible part of enabling us to do what we do. And so thank you. We love you. Have a blessed holiday season. Take time to slow down and enjoy the moments. Ignore the man laughing.
Calling the kettle.
But seriously, to enjoy the time, to be together, to be with friends, and more importantly, family, and to value the connectedness that we were always designed and created to have. We love you, and God bless.
Amen.
Amen.